What's up? This is the truth behind the TV show Me and the Boys. This is basically a continuation from Thea because ABC was basically throwing things against the wall to see if it sticks. ABC was not known for its diversity, and they saw everyone else starting to bloom as the 90s was all about let's be diverse. We got to come up with this show. So they are trying to basically fill the time slot, knowing they have no real intentions of keeping an African American show. Now, Thea was about an African American woman, widowed, taking care of her four kids. Me and the Boys is about Steve Harvey, who's widowed, taking care of three boys with his mother in law. And this show had some good episodes, but they're far few in between. It was like they ran out of ideas, and you start to see the show kind of pivot. I guess they were trying to say, well, we got to try to boost up, attention for the show. Now, the show and the way it was scheduled to be, it's a father, with three boys, and he's basically teaching them how to become men. Was it three boys or four boys? I think it was three boys. And he's trying to teach them how to become men, and a lot of the things they are doing, he's being really a dad. And the mother-in-law, she stepped in, played by Madge Sinclair. And if you guys don't remember her, she plays A. Leon in Coming to America. She plays Eddie Murphy's mother. She plays the queen. Then go to her, my son. Stop it, Joffrey. The boy's in love. So it was basically a very educational show. But Steve Harvey kind of changed the idea of what the shows was going to be about and what the episodes should be about. You had a guy who's a widow, Steve Tower. He ran a video store in Dallas and was struggling to raise three boys on his own. And Mad Sinclair, who passed away, rest in peace to her, right after the show was canceled, like a few months later. So while the show was, you know, um, had aired and everything, she had passed away. So this was her last like acting performance that we seen. Now this was to follow Full House. Full House was a hit, so they needed something to fill the rank after Thea. Thea went ahead and left an opening spot when they canceled the show due to conflict and everything else going on with the show. Now, they got the co-creators involved with, which was Bob Dames and Rob Dames and Bob Meyer. So you got them together, and all of these guys said, you know what? We need to move forward with this show. And Steve's funny. They saw him in the comedy club and saw this guy, and they was like, man, this guy's, he's funny. We got to get this guy out here. So as the show was developing, you start seeing Leonard Rips, who was one of the main writers when it first started, to get it up and going. And they had so many writers. And I think when you got so many writers, that's why the show starts to kind of go in different directions. Um, the episodes that Leonard Rips did and Bob Myers and all those guys when they were involved, those were the very good episodes. I didn't like the ones that they had guest writers come in and and add their 2 cents in, and they kind of just take things off, and it just goes in a different direction. And when you saw the show kind of pivot and do other things, you started to see a change. Steve Harvey actually wrote an episode. He kind of co-wrote some and helped out with some of the writers because he kind of didn't like the way it was going. Um, they were running out of ideas. Like for the characters, there was like no direction. So it was like Steve Harvey was trying to interject some of his life into the episodes as far as him being chasing women, and it went from a show about a guy who owns a video store trying to raise his kids to a guy who got some kids, but he finna go chase some women. you know. So that's basically what they was showing. So he had to have a love interest, and they introduced her in the later part of the series to try to spruce things back up when they started seeing the ratings wasn't doing what they thought it should. It had a decent rating though. The show I thought did enough to get picked up for the next season. They didn't see it that way. They were like 20th in the ratings, I think, but I guess that's not really what they wanted them to be. Um, some episodes did good, others did not, but I thought they were ending it to where the show could have probably picked up in the second season, but there was a lot of complications and conflicts with Steve Harvey and the writing and Steve's control with the show. Now, ABC and Steve weren't really seeing eye to eye, even though he was a co-creator of the show. He wanted more writing responsibilities for the second season. So, for Black Family, they had like Young Artist Awards. They had the kids get nominated. Was nominated for Best New Family TV Series, and it did not even get brought back because that's how big network companies can do you. They can just say we can just shut this whole thing down and take the pieces we like and move forward. And then there's so many people out of work, and it's sad, but that happens in this cutthroat business. So me and the boys became another show that was on the editing room floor. Now, what surprised a lot of people who didn't even pay attention to it or notice it at the time was that Steve Harvey was making other plans. You know, I guess he kind of knew me and the boys could go left. They didn't have a notification before the end of the season that this is it, but everything, like the writing, was on the wall. You know, I think he kind of knew. So when that plug was pulled, Steve went back to doing stand up as they were getting ready to launch a new distribution that was pro friendly to African Americans, where they can have a real shot, a real show. And when they had the WB come around. They had a big budget for African Americans to come on over. And, Steve was one of the people that can come in there, and they let him be one of the creators of that show. And he went to that direction. But me and the boys helped set that up, as people was like very proud to see a black man take responsibility for their kids when a lot of opportunities weren't given. So ABC got a lot of pats on the back for saying they gave him the opportunity, but they really just set him up because they didn't really care what happened to the show. They were just throwing some on the wall, hoping they get a Cosby Show or a Fresh Prince of Bel Air out of it. So it is what it is. Don't forget to like the video. You can support the page by hitting up my Cash App. Carcino, there is a playlist, The Truth Behind TV Shows, and you get to learn a whole lot of things that was happening behind the scenes and a lot of other television shows you probably didn't know. So on that note, deuces!